All right. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another live stream, another closed traffic podcast episode. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Hope you guys are staying safe. Johnny, what is going on, my friend? Welcome. Say hello to the people.
Man, how's it going, guys? Hope all is well. Hope everyone is staying much warmer than we are here in lovely Texas. Since, yeah, we just tend to have the wackiest weather. It's like when we want cold weather, it's like 100 degrees, and then it's like
Yeah,
when we don't want cold weather, it's like -10. So, anyhow, but all in all, we're
typical.
we're, we're surviving here.
Yeah, it's a bit overcast here in Southern California. Not typical, but hey, uh, still not as bad as some of the other areas in the country. And I heard the north and southeast are going to get hit pretty bad in the next couple of days, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, our friends out there in the east, on the East Coast, just be careful, batten down the hatches, and take all the proper precautions because it's supposed to be a doozy, so they say.
Absolutely. Listen, man, enough about us. I think we all know why everyone is here. We know why we are here. Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
we are joined by Sasso and Goran from Hot Start and X-Aviation to talk to us today about the lovely, incredible, gosh, I'm just blown away by this add-on, but Challenger 650, man. Goran, Sasso, say hello. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey folks, how are you doing?
Awesome, awesome. We're gonna just jump right into it, man. We've got a series of questions that we've got for you guys, and some of the things that we've been collecting from the audience and some of our folks that subscribe to the channel, and just things that we've seen on the forums and through other live streams about this incredible aircraft. But before we dive into the aircraft, I think we've got some initial specific introductory questions. I think really for each of you, and that's starting with what's your background? Goran or Sasso, either one of you can go first, but kind of walk the folks through your background. What got you into flight sim? What got you into aviation? And then obviously subsequently, what got you into add-on development?
Go ahead and hit
You
him
can
up,
go
Goran.
first. All
Okay.
right. Right, I'll go first. Wow. I was in a field which was completely unrelated. I was a personal trainer at a gym about half-hour drive away from me. And then from there, I worked at the airport. I was gravitating towards aviation. And I lost my job at the airport, and I pretty much got fired there because they were just getting rid of staff, cutting back. And I thought, okay, well, let's start doing something. And I picked up a 3D program and started messing around with it. And within about, I think, 5 months, I had something to show. And that's when X-Aviation took an interest and decided to talk to me and sign me up.
Wow,
Oh.
gotcha.
I
And
got very lucky with it. I just fell into it, and it all just pretty much fell into place pretty easily.
gotcha. And have you always
Wow.
kind of been an aviation fan? I mean, you mentioned working, down there.
Yeah, I started getting interested in aviation about 25 years ago. Um, I went to get my private pilot's license and did that until about 2006.
Okay.
And it started getting too expensive. So I had to drop that. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, then that window between 2006 and 2009 is when I started picking up just the virtual kind of thing on aviation. And it's pretty good. I like working for myself. I don't like having to report to anybody. And
I hear that.
yeah, and it was a smooth transition, but it's nice. You get to work from home.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That's pretty interesting. Sasso, how about you, man?
Well, I kind of go way back in aviation. I've always loved aviation or sort of flight simulation, that kind of stuff, even as a kid.
Yeah.
Probably started around FS4, give or take. I don't remember that.
Wow.
It gets a haze. And then I kind of like, it was, just usual, your kid stuff, 10-year-old kid just messing around this stuff. And then I kind of left it. I've been developing, I've professionally, I was always a software engineer. So I trained as one, and I worked essentially all my career as one. And probably 5 or 6 years ago, I don't remember anymore exactly, I picked aviation flight simulation again back up. I just noticed one of Frugal's videos up on YouTube started watching. He was
Yeah.
flying an Aerosoft A320 or something like that, and I was like, wow. And like I remember the flight simulation that was back in the 90s. It was kind of crummy, and
Yeah.
the amount of progression that has been made in like 10 or 15 years since then was just amazing.
Yeah.
Like you could actually sit in the cockpit. The thing actually looked like the thing. There was actually 3D switches. Everything looked great. He
Right.
had FS2 Crew running, so it was
Yeah.
all pretty swell. And that's what kind of got me back into it. For about a couple of years, I was just a user. So I just wanted to like fly airplanes around. Um, I didn't go into Microsoft Flight Simulator anymore because I looked at FSX. Okay, that thing's outdated. It's not being developed anymore.
Yeah.
And I looked at X-Plane and wow, this thing's got actually proper aerodynamic model, everything. So kind of that's where I went. Flew around for a couple of years, and then as software developers, we get kind of restless in that we always find some things that are just annoying us. So we always try and you pick up the hammer and you start hammering on the thing, right? You just kind of, you can't just let it be there or can just complain. You got to do something about it.
Right.
And so I developed a bunch of add-ons, a bunch of plugins, and after that, obviously the natural progression was I want to do an airplane, and I started doing an airplane, the TBM with Goran here. And after that came out, I essentially left my former software development job for an enterprise software company and just started doing this real time because exactly like Goran said, I love being my own boss. And at the same time, you get to work on something that is absolutely your hobby, and that's what I'm doing. Then I got a PPL and that kind of all the good stuff that you kind of comes with the territory of getting really immersed in something too unhealthy levels.
Yeah.
Too cool. I gotta say, I'm sorry, Mike. I've just been in awe because I'm probably the biggest fan of the TBM 900. I've been yearning.
He's not exaggerating either.
Was really looking forward to a awesome, just accurate PT6 simulation, and I haven't seen anything that's topped it, at all. And I mean, to this day, I still fly it. So, just again, congratulations for the release as well.
Hey, thanks,
and like I said, just a really, really huge fan. So, and to Mike's point, there's no exaggeration.
Wait. You fly it or it flies you?
Probably
Sometimes a little of both, right?
Yeah, a little bit on the latter, but that's a handful.
I'm just messing with you. Yeah.
No, it's a handful, but that's I think there's definitely a need for that. I know especially for a lot of us simmers who have been around for quite some time, or even those who are just getting into the industry, just to have that challenge, something that actually requires study, simulation, to where if things are mishandled, you're
gonna pay for it. Yep.
You're gonna pay for it. So definitely hats off to you folks for what you've done for the community, as a whole, for sure.
And that was kind of the goal when what I set out to do with the TBM as well, is it was always going to be I just don't want to make yet another cockpit simulator. I want to make it a TBM is kind of a personal cruiser, right? So it's the airplane you own when you've made it sort of in the business world, and you fly as an owner operator. So you would naturally have to deal with stuff like I gotta get a brake change on the airplane. I got a leaking fuel tank, that kind of stuff. You're caring for the airplane. I always wanted to convey that in that airplanes do not stop being on your mind, or the airplane that you own doesn't stop being on your mind the moment you shut down the engine.
Right.
That's when the actual care for the thing starts. You got to start taking care of the little maintenance issues and that kind of stuff. Just filling out the occasional piece of paperwork. So yeah, absolutely. And it's that what I try to capture. I was going through my flight training, I think at the time, or it was actually before that. And yeah, you kind of learn that airplanes fly on paper. They don't use fuel. They need paper.
Absolutely.
Truckloads of paperwork. So it's just that sort of back end of caring for an airplane. That's what we're set out to recreate on the sim.
Yeah, that's incredible. I wish more developers kind of thought that thought like that, right? And kind of went beyond the typical, flight sim things that we continue to see out there today. Just really be able to immerse yourself in the product. Again, even after you shut the engine down, like you said, is something that we don't see all too often. So I think that's incredible. That kind of leads me into, really the inception of, Hot Start, and then, Ladder. We were talking a little bit earlier, Goran, X-Aviation. Can you kind of walk everyone through, how, Hot Start came to be, and kind of how you guys progressed through, the overall product line?
So the history of Hot Start is essentially it's the history of the TBM, how it got developed.
Mhm.
When I started on the TBM, Hot Start didn't exist. I just knew I wanted to make an airplane, and I wanted to do something that had ready to go avionics, so that I didn't have to. I tried to mess around with avionics earlier on, and it was just a sort of a train wreck. And I saw how tall that mountain is that's got to be climbed on. So I wanted to do something that's simpler, something that's going to be able to have some ready-made avionics come directly with the SAM. And I knew XPlane 10 was going to have the built-in G1000. So I picked an airplane. I wanted to do an airplane that had a G1000 natively, and I also wanted to do an airplane that was fast but not jet complexity. So I wanted essentially the maximum you could get away with a propeller, and the TBM is pretty close to that. So that was the motivation to pick the TBM. Initially, I didn't even know if it's going to be payware. Is it just going to be like an open source project? Am I just going to mess with this?
Right.
And for about the first half year, give or take, maybe a little bit longer, I was the only one working on it. I was basically doing everything. And I was doing graphics, and I was doing the 3D and the textures for it. And I hate doing visuals. Like it's like eating broken glass for me. I am not an artistic person. I do have a feel for shapes, but other than that, I just don't like molding and geometric and organic shapes and that kind of stuff. Is just horrible for me. Every time I had to work on the 3D, I hated it. So it was a real godsend that in February, I think 2017 or something like that, 2018.
Yeah.
18. I got on a call with a buddy streamer of mine, and he got me in touch with Goran. And so Goran was on a call, so I just did a screen share, and it was like, okay, I'm just going to show him what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And I was talking about all the system simulation, that kind of stuff. Showed him some avionics that I'd coded already, and Goran was like, "Let's go, dude."
We're gonna get 5 minutes.
Man, your eyes probably lit up.
I literally told him, I said, "Dude, I don't even want to wait anymore. I want to get stuck into it right now. Let's go."
Let's go. Heck yeah.
It was kind of a nice partnership in that we hit it off in the sense that Goran was exactly good at what I was horrible at. So he basically just took over the entire graphical part of the project, and ever since then we just kind of cooperate on everything in that way, in that kind of a partition. I do all the systems, simulation, aerodynamic stuff, and Goran does all the visuals, everything that you look at on the screen.
Oh, wow.
So
that's
and Hot Start was essentially the genesis of Hot Start.
Gotcha. Oof, and thank goodness for that, because like Johnny said, we've all kind of been waiting for that level of fidelity in XPlane. Before I continue to go on here, folks, welcome in. Glad to see each and every one of you. As the title says, we are on with Goran and Sasso from Hot Start, talking through just the inception of Hot Start, and in a bit here we'll definitely get into the Challenger 650, because I know that's why everyone is here. Feel free to jump in, ask your questions, and sit back, relax, and enjoy. Speaking of just the level of fidelity, so I'm a guy coming from FSX and P3D. I really didn't get into X-Plane, until about, I want to say 2017, maybe even 2018. And a lot of the things that I've been able to witness with my own eyes, and not so much today, but a couple of years ago, as well as what other folks have said coming from P3D or folks that own kind of both, is we kind of lack the system fidelity that we see in the P3D aircrafts like your FS Labs, PMDG, across the X-Plane line. And a lot of the times we've heard other developers say, well, it's just because X-Plane doesn't have that capability, doesn't have the code. It's just not there to do that. And then you guys turn around and drop the TBM.
And just blow the
And
doors
then
off.
then you turn around and drop the 650. So it's hard for me to like to kind of, you know, churn on that and go with that as an excuse these days when you guys are able to kind of flip that on its head and you know, come out with the opposite. What's your perspective on that? Do you think it truly is challenging to do that level of fidelity in X-Plane? Or do you think it's really folks not really wanting to push the barriers as they should, or maybe a little both? What do you guys think?
I can only speak to it from the perspective as a code developer. And for me, X-Plane is a million times easier to develop for than anything I have seen from either P2D or Microsoft Flight Sim.
Wow.
Frankly, to me, the software architecture of P3D and MSFS seems arcane and fairly. It's not that it's impossible to work in. That'd be kind of that'd be stretching it. Ultimately, the sim is only a platform. It's like saying, you can't develop good software for Windows or you can't develop good software for Linux. Ultimately, the purpose of the platform should be to get out of your way. But I find that MSFS and P3D just get in your way a whole lot more. They're trying to force you to do things their way or the highway, whereas in X-Plane, you basically get free reign to do almost anything. Austin, the principal developer of X-Plane, he is a super approachable dude. You can email him anytime you got a question. You're gonna get a response within a few hours usually. The dude probably doesn't sleep, and and he is super technical. He's got a great technical team, and anytime you want basically something added or refined in the sim, even though you've already got insane amounts of access, they're going to look and try and accommodate you. Like the amount of access you've got in X-Plane is you basically get to run your code directly inside of the sim. There's no restrictions on what you can do. There's open APIs and open specifications for file structures and everything everywhere. So you can pretty much touch everything. You can override anything. There's no such thing like I know some developers are struggling in MSFS where they're saying that they're having trouble with some aerodynamic stuff of the core sim, and Asobo doesn't let them take care of and control that. In X-Plane, I can just set a couple of variables and I can take over the entire movement of the airplane if I wanted to. So there's just a lot of refinement that you can get there. Obviously, there's improvements that are possible, but the amount of features that we got in X-Plane to be developer friendly are just top notch, I would say.
So pretty much the opposite of what I've been told.
Probably.
That is hilarious. That's hilarious.
It really is.
I mean, that's good news. I mean, that's good news for the future. Listen, it sounds like, the foundation and the core platform is there for developers to take advantage of it. So hopefully, we see the bar now raised and we'll be able to get higher fidelity products. Nothing wrong with the products that we have today. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing any of the products. I've got a ton of them on my sim and I fly them all the time. But as the saying go, there's levels to this. So Goran, you kind of feel the same way pretty much?
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of the things that he did, that Sasa did, for example, the FBO for the Challenger, I even spoke to him about this. I spoke to him about this a few months ago, and when he first showed me, he really dropped the ball on me. And I was looking at it with my mouth open, and I asked him, I said, what is it that goes inside your brain that makes you think of this stuff? Because this is stuff I don't even... The reason I think that we haven't seen things like this in other sims is because it never even occurs to people to add that in there.
No, it doesn't.
Exactly.
When I saw that, I thought, how? And he just told me, he says, well, I just want to see things in the sim that I experience when I go flying. And I was like, no, that's fair enough, but
it's still,
my brain doesn't work like that. So I was like,
right.
Absolutely do it. And then sometimes I would throw ideas at him, like for example, the de-icing truck. He showed me that and I was blown away by that. And then it just came into my head. I said, dude, can you maybe put the camera view inside the cab and maybe like give them kind of the perspective of de-icing their own
De-icer,
plane.
yeah.
And he thought about it for about 2 seconds, and he think, yeah, I think I can do that. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. And half an hour later, he'll come back and he'll say, yeah, check this out. And he showed me what I did. I said, oh my God, how do you do this? Jesus. The very first time I had this happen to me with Sasso was with Librain, because we were working on the TBM, and I just asked him, I said, do you think you can make your own rain for this thing? Like, because I don't like the rain in X-Plane. It needs improving.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, I'll see if I can dabble around in that. I mean, he can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, because this is going back a few years. And literally about 24 hours later, like I didn't think he was going to do it. And 24 hours later, he sends me a message on Discord, and he says, can I screen share something with you? And I said, yeah, sure. And he screen shares, and he shows me his first alpha of the rain. I'm like, how did you do this in 24 hours? What's the matter with you? And that was the conception, the inception of Librain.
Wow.
So yeah, like he thinks, Sasso thinks of the things that other developers don't think of, not because they're lazy or anything, just because it never occurs to them to add that stuff in there.
Absolutely.
He wants the full experience, and yeah, like when he shows me this stuff, I'm like, yeah, man, go for it, absolutely, 100% if you can do it. That's why he'll ask me sometimes if I can model something for him. For example, an extra feature that is nothing to do with an aircraft. I said, dude, if you can code it, just tell me and I'll model it. No problem. Don't even ask. Just tell me. Just say, I need you to code this.
Study level trash can.
Yeah, right?
Don't get any ideas, man.
Oh, man. That is incredible, man.
Incredible. I got to say, my jaw dropped. I watched the stream. I think everybody did. And, I was just got off of work, and I was watching the stream, and when he mentioned when I saw the FBO going, my mouth dropped. I mean, I was from that moment on, my mind was blown, and and you hit the nail right on the head, my friend. It's that he manages to think of things that none of us would think of, and I know myself and Mike as well. The FBO experience is, you see that you go through the FBO, spot on, all the way up to the little random little computer desk there. You go and you do your flight plans or whatever, and and guys, I'm sorry, I gotta admit, I literally flew the thing. I just finished another flight in the 650 right before we started the stream, and I don't know, Mike, how many hours I got in the thing already?
You've got a ton of hours in that thing.
Yeah,
it's only been a week.
It's ridiculous.
Someone needs to cut you a check, man.
Oh man, no joke. But my every time I step in it, I always seem to find something new and unique with it. And the same thing with TBM. I've had a TBM since it released, and I'm always finding new features and new nuances with the airplane that I haven't seen before. So yeah, I think that definitely for sure is what what sets your guys' products apart from the rest.
You find a lot more in the Challenger when you come across them. A lot more nuances in the Challenger that you haven't found.
I'm sure there's a ton of those. So we jumped right into the Challenger. We might as well keep going. First of all, again, those of you just tuning in, we are on with Sasso and Goran, talking us through the Challenger 650. We'll jump into that right now, but also just some of the things like the inception of Hot Start and whatnot. Man, it's time for Johnny 650 to have a major overhaul. He already needs an overhaul. I know, right?
Oh yeah, it's time for a C check already.
Oh man, that's funny. So where I gotta ask, what brought along kind of the initial idea to bring a Challenger 650 to X-Plane?
So when we select a new project to work on, I did this initially with the TBM and then also with the Challenger. Is I was looking for something that hadn't been done yet, because ultimately, if you think about it, as a product, even if you want to sell it, you have to find some niche, and it's much easier to find a new aircraft type that hadn't been done before, rather than try and redo something, retread a path that had already been trodden, and then you ultimately just end up splitting sales, right? You have to you have to basically steal customers from somebody else, so to speak. Whereas if you're doing a new aircraft type that hadn't been done before, it's essentially a green field, right? You get to do whatever. Now for the Challenger, I've been asked this multiple times, and we've kind of come up with essentially a list of 4 conditions for us to do an aircraft type. First of all, we have to have access to it, right? So with the TBM, we had access to an owner-operator who owns a TBM, and he could at any time get us measurements, get us pictures, record sounds for us. I traveled out to Texas to him and spent a couple of days at his place, and we were playing around in the airplane, recording sounds, doing engine runs, that kind of stuff. With the Challenger, we also had right from the get-go, a friend of ours was a captain on a Challenger, so we knew we could get access. So first of all, we need to have access to the airplane to actually be able to work with somebody. We don't do paper planes. We don't do just, we download manuals and then put our best spin on it. No, we actually, have to have somebody who has firsthand knowledge, so that there's many things that we wouldn't be able to capture otherwise. Second of all, we have to see market potential in it. We have a friend of ours named Graham who would absolutely love for us to do a shorts 360. If you know what a shorts looks like, imagine a brick with wings. Essentially, it's more like a shoebox the size of a house. Right. Or a Vickers Viscount. Sure, they are absolutely lovely airplanes, I'm sure, technically, but we understand that there is certain market appeal to do a jet, to do something that's fast, to do something that's modern. So there has to be market appeal to it. And thirdly, we have to be passionate about it. If we were just in it for the money, we would do yet another Airbus or yet another Boeing, because we know airliners sell, the most popular airliners sell the most, but it would not feel like fun. It would feel like a daily, just a slog, just absolutely going to drain on that, on those projects. So we want to do something that we're passionate about, and we saw there isn't really a good biz jet. The Challenger is exciting. It has a lot of range. It has a lot of capability, a large cabin, a lot of missions. There's a lot of them flying out there. They are modern aircraft. We got access to it. Let's go. That is absolutely a no-brainer. So that is what primarily gravitated us towards the Challenger there, to pick on that airframe.
Absolutely. I'll have to say this, and I've been saying this for, oh Lord, decades, but there's literally a hole for biz jets. There's absolutely, very few developers have actually taken on the challenge of developing a biz jet, and I totally agree. I mean, in terms of the 650, I mean, its mission capability is bar none. We got a couple leaving out of Addison, Texas, and they're running a little 100-mile trip to Tyler, Texas, or they're doing a 3-4 hour trip to the East Coast. So extremely capable. I mean, I've yet to run out of ideas of where I can fly the Challenger to. So
if you talk about biz jets, I mean, there are a couple out there, but they're usually old Citations or very old Lears. And a lot of the developers that are going to do the biz jets, they're going to do usually either the steam gauge versions or some very basic, CRT screen avionics, barely a GPS on it, and that's because it's easy to do. You get to use stock avionics for that. But the problem is that kind of an aircraft, it's not as exciting personally to me, because it's an airplane for a 2-hour flight really, and if you want to do any more, you ain't got no lav. For a Lear can go high and it can go fast, but not for very long. It's usually going to be a Lear. I'm not even sure if it can do coast to coast. I think just about some Lears can do it, but but not really more than that. Inside of it, it's not bigger than a small compact car, in terms of fuselage diameter. So medevac on a Lear is a challenge. I know there are some that do, but it's a challenge, like squeezing into that split door. Whereas a Challenger was designed originally as sort of a jack of all trades. So it can go short distances, but it can also do transatlantic. It can carry a single person, but you can actually convert it into almost like a hospital ship. Like you've got Rega is flying Challengers that have 2 full-size beds with a full another 8 people that are going to be able to be carried on the airplane at the same time as the 2
Wow.
patients. So Rega does they fly Challengers all over the world. And despite it having theoretically only transatlantic range, you can find a Rega Challenger flying out of Australia just because they got a medevac mission to like transport recover a casualty or some patient back to like Europe or that kind of stuff, or they'll fly all over the place. And it's a very, very versatile airframe. So that is really exciting to us.
I'm just blown away, man. Like I said, I remember it being announced a while back, but Johnny's really the one that's kind of been following, you all's development all along. And I was sitting it might have been 2 weeks ago now, sitting in a meeting, and he sends me the link, I think, Sasso, to, it might have been day 1 or day 2. I can't remember. One of those days where you were kind of demoing the, mostly finished product to the community. And I saw the FBO. I had to get up and walk out and go watch the rest outside of the conference room. And it was that serious. I was that blown away. I was like, wait a minute, this is an X-Plane add-on. It was incredible. I was really taken aback. And like Johnny says, I continue to fly it and continue to find different things, each and every flight. Like, it's incredible how much the aircraft, and if you're used to the TBM that you guys put out as well, you're kind of familiar with that, but it's incredible how much the aircraft retains after you've already shut it down and you try to go out for a next flight. And I'm like, why is that on? I forgot to turn it off. So like, it really makes you think. It really keeps you on the top of your game. And I think that's something, we want to continue to see, throughout this flight sim hobby for many years to come. Lots of questions in here. Definitely is about what's next for the Challenger and X-Plane 12 and
the
all this
Rega
good
is
stuff.
planned, just so people know.
Okay. The Rega is planned, so there you go.
Yeah,
awesome.
With cooperation from Rega themselves.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
too cool.
Yeah, I got documentation. I got the livery on the outside. All the different angles, the colors, the lines, everything. So
wow.
Photos of the interior.
That's
it's gonna be a big one. That one
for sure.
Looking forward to that.
Wow.
You can count on us coding a special medevac mission for that. So it's not just going to be a medevac looking airplane, but it's still your usual business passenger. No, we actually are going to make something special for that.
Awesome.
Too cool.
Is Goran using a body double? He looks super well rested.
A little pre-workout.
There you go. I can't even begin to imagine how busy you guys are. I was in the Discord. It might have been last weekend, and I was trying to figure something out. Oh, yes, it was I couldn't get radios on VATSIM, and it turned out because the
avionics
switch on the Alpha was off, and I think it was 5 seconds someone answered that for me. It's incredible. Again, so many folks put out a product, and it's so hard to go in and get support. You guys were on there, release weekend. You're probably still on there answering questions in real time. So I'm sure I appreciate that, and I'm sure the community appreciates it.
We try and do our best that we can with answering questions, but we got all these, like Graham is one of them. All our testers. Without them, we'd be a couple of grease spots on the floor.
Very much so. We would not be able
to cope. We would not be able to cope. And
keep up,
we've told them, I don't even know how many times, thanks so much for helping us out, guys, because we'd be really. I think I'll probably just go into hibernation for 3 months and then come out and see what's going on. It's just not possible. You can't. I would get to sleep and then wake up in the morning and I'd see something like 670 messages that I've missed or something. I say, oh my god.
Yeah, that's pretty close to it. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. And we just don't want to go back through that. I mean, we've got Graham, Amy, Captain Crash, and they're all in different time zones too.
Oh, so that helps, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're kind of manning the chat for like 24 hours. And we kept on telling him, please, guys, just go to sleep. Graham sleeps for an hour and a half a night. I don't know how he does it. That's an exaggeration. He'll say, I have to go to sleep. And an hour and a half later, he's back up again. I said, dude, what are you doing up? You just went to sleep. And he goes, oh, I've slept enough. Unbelievable.
So you guys mentioned, one of the other questions we kind of had was, your approach to working with, real world pilots and manufacturers to really get this level of detail in your aircrafts and then into the sim. Obviously, you mentioned you guys worked with a captain on the 650, but is there any other, tool? Are there any other tools or any other approaches that you guys use? It's incredibly detailed, man. I've seen forums and heard from, real world pilots that actually fly this thing that say, listen, they didn't miss a thing. What's, besides, just working with a pilot here or there, I could just imagine there's probably, hours and hours of studying every system and understanding how it works to be able to develop for and program that.
Lots of videos.
Yeah. Well, yeah, lots of FaceTime with the pilots that are, when they're sitting in the cockpit, they literally just point the camera at the screens and we tell them buttons to push and things to try. But it's really on the 650, it comes down to the way that the airplane's built architecturally, right, as a model. Initially, when I was starting out on the 650, I knew I wanted essentially nothing to depend on the base sim. The only thing that I was willing to leave to the base sim is aerodynamics, because for that, first of all, I don't feel qualified to do custom aerodynamics completely from scratch, and second of all, I think XPlane actually does a pretty good job. When you enter all the data into XPlane accurately, XPlane will get you within 5% of the real thing, and the remaining 5% you basically just sort of finagle in.
Right.
But in terms of everything else, all the systems, all the avionics, every piece of systems architecture on the airplane, I knew I wanted to recreate just like the real thing, which is to say there is no secret knowledge in any of the systems. There is no, in any of the avionics, for example, none of the computers on the airplane has any knowledge of the outside world other than what it can acquire through simulated sensors. Wow. And of course, so we essentially, it's like Carl Sagan's Cosmos, where he said that if you want to make an apple pie from scratch, you got to first invent the universe. So on the 650, we start out with the basic physics, right? So how does an engine work? Well, I start out with basic study of like NASA documents for how to model the thermodynamics of a turbine engine. And I go through the whole rigmarole of implementing a turbine engine that behaves realistically and approximates exactly what the CF-34 on the Challenger does. I have it obeys essentially all the laws of physics. Afterwards, we then simulate sensors. So a sensor will have something like it'll have something like a pitot-static tube, right, or a pitot-static probe. It's going to be subject to various noise and effects like flying off angle and that kind of stuff. And the only thing the pitot-static probe gives you is total and static pressure, nothing more, plus added noise and randomness to the measurement. So essentially, I take the perfect data I've got in the sim, where you are, how fast you're flying, I mess it up. I make it like bad data, and then I have a computer that's running in a separate thread that then has to clean that back up and try and make sense of it. So we start good, we break it, and then we fix it.
Wow.
And eventually, that's exactly why the airplane behaves so realistically. It's essentially because from the avionics point of view, and each computer is running in its own thread in its own little world. From the airplane's in avionics point of view, it is actually flying a real Challenger. It has no notion of the fact that it's inside of a sim. It cannot peek at the sim and ask the sim, okay, where am I actually, or what is our actual speed? What is our actual attitude? It was one of the things. One of the most, I'd say, complicated pieces of avionics was the inertial reference system, because the inertial reference system has no knowledge of where it is. The pilot tells it where it is, and from there, all it gets is gyroscopic and accelerometer measurements, and then it has to what they call integrate, or basically sum up its position over time. It never ever gets to pick or peek directly into the sim to tell it, okay, we're actually here.
Where it is.
Wow. So recreating the proper math, that actually took a bunch of studying.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Wow, I'm sure.
See what I mean? I don't even bother trying to figure him out.
No. There's no.
I just say, work your magic, dude. I'll model it and texture it. You make sure it runs, and I'm happy.
Do your
Yeah.
thing.
Oh man.
And of course, once I've done all the studying, I didn't want to make it like, I'm going to implement all the code and then just hide it under a nice veneer and you'll never ever see it. No, I want you to see how it's done because I want you to
Yeah,
know
let's
how
just-
that sausage is made.
Yep.
So that's
Absolutely.
where all the study screens come in.
Yeah.
Initially, because for myself, I can develop stuff just using debug printouts and command line stuff and that kind of stuff. But to make it an actual study experience for people to derive new knowledge from that, I made the study screens. I made them little pretty and graphical, and I put a ton of tooltips everywhere. So there's like
Mhm.
several thousand lines of explanations on everything all over the plane that tell you and try to teach you how how a Challenger works, or how an aircraft works in general. It's not a full engineering course, but it's meant sort of. My hope eventually is such that people that are actually going through like engineering courses or aircraft type ratings and that kind of stuff, they're going to be able to look at this and see like correlate what they're reading in the book to what's happening on screen and be able to like understand how the relationships happen in the real thing.
I'll tell you what, when I was working on my type rating, when I was back in the airlines, I would have paid thousands of dollars for what. I mean,
Right.
it's and I do exactly that. I'm sure Mike does as well. It's you're at cruise and it's like, wow, let's see what the pneumatic system's doing. What's the turn on the cowl, the cowl heat. What's how does that what valves are actuating during that point? I mean, it's just it's literally a study session, and I think to me there's some of the most powerful features in the add-on,
Absolutely.
in my humble opinion. I mean, it's just it gives you an opportunity to learn, and again, like I don't think that there's really anyone else doing that. And to a certain extent, I think to me that's kind of what's lacking in the industry, because there's a lot of aviators, such as myself. My first experience was with FS-98, and then I wanted to become a pilot. Then I wanted to become a commercial pilot, and I'm sure there's others who want to become AMPs, the combustion process and a turbofan engine. I mean, you can look at it.
Literally.
literally. So I mean, I think that was really cool, guys. Really cool to put that in there.
And I hope I didn't want to hide any details. So if I made a mistake, I put literally all the numbers out there. You can just run the same math and you can check my results to make sure that I didn't get it wrong. If I did get it wrong, do tell me. I want to fix it. But hopefully it did get it roughly right, because it's behaving like the real thing as close as we can anyway, approximate from the data that I have.
Right.
Wow.
Mind blowing, man. Mind blowing. Rise Jones. Yeah, I guess we can get into this next. Anything exciting coming in the first update for the 650?
Well, the first update's always going to be something that essentially we've identified any issues that we've had for the initial release. So I'd say probably 95% bug fixes. Little issues, refinements, that kind of stuff that had to be cut from the release to like make a release date. But I'd say look for big new features in the subsequent updates. Update 1 was always trying to get everybody up and running.
Right, of course.
So, I mean, there are little refinements, when we've identified how people interact with the thing or where they get confused. So yeah, there is actually going to be like I've noticed a couple of people get confused on streams when they were trying to call the fueler in and they didn't realize the door's closed on the aircraft. The fueler's not going to walk, through the door. He's waiting on you to open the door. So we've given him a little kind of a.
That's
going to try and get your attention.
How the hell did they get in the aircraft with the door closed? You mean they're just popping in with like their set preview, their predefined camera view? Is that what's going on?
No, for example, imagine that you call the fueler and you close it, you forget about it, you close the door.
God.
And we've had a couple of people do that because they're, everything's new and fresh and they want to mess around with the door, so they just close the door and not realize.
Forget
and
about
not realize it. Yeah.
Got it. and they're like, "Where the hell's my fuel?"
For these guys, it was actually worse. These were airline pilots, and to them, they ordered a fuel, and then they closed the door because the fueler is going to interact with the company, right? He's just going to unhook and get away. But
Yeah,
in a private operator, you got to actually pay for the fuel, or you got to sign a
exactly.
fuel receipt.
Right.
So it's not so simple, and it's just telling them to get lost.
Man, that's awesome. I'll tell you what I didn't realize I did a couple days ago. I think so. I didn't realize I was getting the flows down, as much better as I continue to fly the aircraft. So I set my departure time like I think 45, 50 minutes out, and I completed everything. And I'm like, where the hell are the passengers? I tried calling them. They were like, yeah, we're on the way. Nothing. I tried calling the FBO, didn't even have an option to send them. I didn't realize that the timing was programmed so that the passengers don't show up to the FBO until it's closer to departure time, which is really kind of how it is out there in the real world, right? Because they're flying, charter and private jet operations. They're not coming to the airport 3 hours ahead, like they're flying a commercial flight, right? They get there the first thing, as soon as they get there, it's time to really go. So that's awesome that that's built in.
Biz jets are what they call time machines for these people. It's how they save time. Their time is valuable enough
money.
To the point where for some operators, like they'll go and take a biz jet flight to like China or Europe, and they'll make a deal that's worth the entire fleet that the company's operating right on that day. So for them, it really isn't worth it to be flying commercial. They just want to get in, get out, and get as much work done as they can. So for them, it's one thing that we kind of do in a sense unrealistically is that we make the passengers actually arrive between about 5 to 10 minutes or 5 to 5 minutes. I'm trying to remember the exact number. It's not exact, but roughly less than 15 minutes before departure, they're going to arrive at the FBO so they can get going. In reality, of course, BizJet pilots listening in will know that it's a good day when the passenger shows up on time. Quite often, you're going to be sitting there in the airplane, and passenger's going to be an hour or 2 hours late, and you can't go home or just depart without the passenger. So you're just sitting there. Eating snacks maybe at the FBO, playing with your Nintendo, waiting for the passenger to show up. And when they show up, the jet's got to be ready to go. So you can't just shut down and go home.
Exactly. You better not be late, but they can be late. That's how it works.
Well, that's kind of a liberty we're taking with the simulation, that our passengers are always on time, so to speak. Because we realize it's still a simulation. It's still got to be fun. It wouldn't really be very fun if you were sitting there 2 hours in front of your computer not doing anything.
Because no one's going to pay you.
That too.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I was like, where the hell are these folks, man? I gotta go.
I think you messaged me about that. I was like, I don't know.
I was like, let's do something up, man. They're not here. I don't know where they are. That was cool, man. That was fun. We had another couple questions in here, and this kind of segues into the next topic about what's next for the Challenger 650 in specifics. We'll go to kind of your overall roadmap later, but what's next in terms of bringing it to X-Plane 12, and then subsequently, everyone close your ears, FS 2020, if there's even a plan for that. Any start with X-Plane 12 at least.
It's going to be a free update, So then it's for the artwork side of it. There may be some adjustments I have to do for that, for the texturing and the gloss and shine and all that sort of stuff.
Got it.
But I mean, I was never one to charge for updates. I just can't see myself doing that for people unless it's a massive, like from the ground up kind of.
Of course.
Deal.
Sure, of course.
As far as code is concerned, Toto can do all sorts of wizardry. So.
So it's very much the same, and the XP12 update is always going to be free. Also for the TBM, because we have kind of a policy in that if we're selling the airplane to new customers, then obviously we're going to provide the same copy to the old customers. That'd be kind of a bad move if we were just to lock it behind the paywall. In terms of what's next, so X-Plane 12, fortunately, it's not going to require a ton of refactoring or any kind of massive rework, because X-Plane 12 is mostly designed to be from the developer's point of view, it kind of looks and smells like X-Plane 11. Obviously,
Okay.
it has a much refined rendering and lighting engine, so there's going to be probably tweaks we can do to the graphics. But in terms of the actual development environment, it's essentially X-Plane 11 plus 1. So most code just runs. There might be, occasional snags and compatibility where we've assumed that stuff is going to be present, that they've removed or that they've changed, but generally it should be a fairly painless process. As for the FS 2020 discussion, we get this question a lot. Not for the foreseeable future, unfortunately. It's not that we hate FS 2020 as a platform. It really isn't. Of course, we would love to, sell to a lot more people. It's mostly about the fact that I just don't think that the airplane would translate very well to FS 20. First of all, the development environment in FS 2020 is very, very, very foreign. They force you to do everything their way. It's kind of got the Microsoft virus in it, and that they force you to either do it their way, which makes it incompatible with everybody else, or you can just go ahead and pound sand. And another thing is, and the big other thing is, I don't think in FS 2020 we get as much control over the aircraft. So in FS 2020, for example, I don't think you can literally take control of the camera and move it about the same way as we would require to get like the whole FBO experience in, to get the whole de-ice truck functionality in, to get the whole system simulation stuff. It would just be a massive undertaking to essentially re-engineer and re-implement the airplane almost from scratch. I wouldn't say completely from scratch, but I would say probably more than 50% of it would have to be redone from nothing. And well, there's currently over 340,000 lines of code in the airplane, and I'm not dying to go ahead and rewrite over half of that. So instead, we're going to focus on X-Plane 12 for now.
Good.
I've been getting messages from people. I don't want to say they're insulted. I know what's behind the messages that they send me, because I get messages on Facebook, on Discord, and they're saying things like, if you don't make add-ons for Microsoft Flight Simulator, you're stupid, you're an idiot. And I'm like, okay,
let's open the line.
I'm processing that. I'm putting a positive spin on that. So I don't really want to come back to them with that. They keep on saying you could print your own money and all this stuff. And I'm just like, I'm not interested in that stuff. I just want to make things that I can make, that I'm comfortable in making, and I'm comfortable in X-Plane, and I can make a living out of this. I can appreciate that they really want what we're making for Microsoft Flight Sim. But at the end of the day, we have to, it's completely, for me, it's completely foreign. It's I know I will have to reanimate everything in 3ds Max, and that's not something I'm looking forward to. Sase just said he's not looking forward to recoding 50% of something like 350,000 lines of code. For me, it's a from scratch animation job, and that's just not appealing at all. People might say, well, you're missing out on all the money and stuff. No, I don't care. It's not that. It's not. It's it's just a whole different method of doing things, and it's literally starting from square one. Not with the modeling. The modeling is fine. I can export and put it in 3ds Max. Just reanimating and all this stuff. And so I said just before, when they were laughing, I was just mouthing the words that I was saying, getting a lot of questions about Microsoft Flight Sim. I was like, yes, a lot. It
would be a major undertaking, and I don't, again, if we were in this for the money, we would probably be doing something completely different. If I just wanted to get rich quick, I'd be doing enterprise software. I wouldn't be doing flight sim. This is a very niche market with a dedicated fan base, but a limited fan base nonetheless. So if I just wanted to, make the big bucks, I just go back into and write some software, some storage software for a giant enterprise, back $200K a year, and just be fat, dumb, and happy. But if I want to work on something that I'm passionate about, it's just simple as that.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. And it's funny, you guys, we can bring that up, because that's not the first time we've heard that. So. Hopefully maybe down the line, a Sobo/Microsoft starts to kind of, understand where a lot of developers are coming from. And, who who knows? But like I said, it's not the first time I've heard that, to where it's very foreign. Especially folks coming over from X-Plane. So no, I totally understand that. And
don't discount XPlane 12, by the way, because from the screenshots we've seen,
looks good.
Oh, that looks good.
the graphics are absolutely there, and the team is super committed to it. They're not doing it for a paycheck either. They want it to be the best they can make it, essentially. And
People have been
Austin,
saying, sorry, go on.
I'm sorry, no, it's just Austin is super committed to getting physics right. So Austin approaches X-Plane itself from very much the same standpoint as I did for the Challenger system. So Austin never tricks anything in, or generally he doesn't. So he will not do things like just put in like a little table of like ground effect coefficient corrections. No, he never does that. He goes back to NASA sources. He has like papers, and he reads and constructs actual models based on test data. So he never just goes and just botches something in there just to get it out quickly. He is willing to rewrite chunks of the sim just to get the proper simulation behaviors.
Got it.
Wow, I've watched some of his videos. I'm not sure. If you guys, those of you who are listening, have the opportunity. I think check out Michael. I think it's under Michael Brown, where he comes up in some of his YouTube videos. But he just goes off on, like, I feel like I'm back in college listening to him. It is, it's incredible. Listening to him, he'll break down the formulas, and it's just like, whoo, So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it's definitely the mad genius mind at work.
Absolutely, he's definitely the mad scientist for sure.
He tells a lot of people sometimes, like he would get emails from people saying, for example, the P factor is wrong in X-Plane. He's now pretty much of the mindset that if he gets an email like that, he'll just delete it without even looking at it. Because if someone's going to contact him and say something is wrong with the sim, he'll come back with, give me figures, give me facts, give me data, and I'll implement it.
Of course.
If you just give me like your opinion that you think it's wrong, then I'm not even going to look at it. And the other thing what I was going to say as well was with X-Plane 12 coming, it's like, I see a lot of people say this, that Austin is now finally, getting his act together and making something that looks really good that can be a worthy competitor to Microsoft. People don't realize that he started working on X-Plane 12 years ago, like I think 5 or 6 years ago. He had he was never going to abandon that. And it's interesting when they say that, because like, I don't know how much information Salsa is privy to, but I've known about some things that have been in the works. And I'm thinking this thing is going to be pretty big. This is going to knock some socks off here.
We saw that at unfortunately we weren't able to physically be there this year, but at Flight Sim Expo, when they came on and started giving us some insight and preview into that, it looks great. I mean, I know the Navigraph survey came out a couple weeks ago, and things are still trending towards FS 2020, but I think you guys are spot on. X-Plane isn't going anywhere, and folks that truly care and are dedicated to flight simming, and not just for the pretty colors and some of the effects, truly want to understand how an aircraft flies and handles, and dive deep into functionality and avionics and some of these other things. X-Plane is going to be around for a long time, so definitely get it.
And the other thing is that Austin owns X-Plane. Shareholders own Microsoft Flight Sim.
Absolutely.
If shareholders don't get their money, then Microsoft will pull the plug faster than they can even blink.
That's true.
But we'll see. I mean, like, it's doing it. It did really well. It was a big promotional thing for Microsoft Flight Sim. But like the thing I like about X-Plane is that the buck stops with the creator, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And he's not going anywhere.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I'm gonna say this, Mike, because I know you're about to segue into something else. But we can't forget that Microsoft has done this before. Flight Simulator back in the day, wasn't making the revenue that they wanted to make, and they stopped it for several years. So, for a while, the platform was dead. And, fortunately, we had, Lockheed Martin kind of, you know, pretty much bought, the code or whatever, and got P3D going. But, X-Plane, was right there. It never went anywhere. And that's
No.
that's one thing, you can't help but admit. I mean, the dedication, from the development team over there at Laminar is just unparalleled. So I'm definitely looking forward to 12 for sure.
I mean, I can share my sort of personal hypothesis or conspiracy theory on or why we even have MSFS.
Sure.
Is I think Microsoft was trying to go the DLC route in MS Flight originally, and the market just wasn't there ready for it. So they didn't see the sales, they didn't see the volume, and it basically just axed it. They were like, this flight simulation stuff, sure, it's nice for the professional market, but it just doesn't make the money. So we'll license the engine out to whoever wants to make a professional sim with it. But in terms of the consumer market, nah, screw this. This ain't it. And I think around 2017, 18 maybe, they probably got approached by some very passionate flight sim folks at Asobo that convinced Microsoft that, hey, the DLC market's open up again. We can make money on the marketplace. That's why MSFS has the marketplace built in, where they take a commission on it on every sale. That's why they're pushing so hard to get everything into Xbox, because they're taking a 30% cut on every sale. And so I think their hope for the continued revenue stream there is all the add-ons, because they look at the P3D market and they see base sim is, academic license $60, but how many hundreds and thousands of dollars do people spend on add-ons aftermarket? And so they thought, if we can tap into that market, we're going to be able to, come out smelling like roses. But I'm not sure Microsoft is eventually, in the long run, I'm not sure MSFS had actually made back its original investment. Like I ran the numbers on a thing, and I would say in terms of development, they're in the hole for at least 100 mil on release day.
Wow.
So, because I counted up the size of the development team, and they said at release time they had 200 people working on MSFS, and they had been working on it for 3 to 4 years. Like, the size of the development team is not going to be constant, but if you sum up, 50 to 100 people over the span of three or so years, you can quite easily say 50, 60 mil just in payroll.
Absolutely.
Jeez.
Wow.
So that's interesting perspective right there, man.
So I'm not convinced that there's that many users. That's probably why they were pushing so hard to get into Xbox and make the sim sort of Xbox and make the sim feel a little bit more casual. Essentially, a more refined GTA 5, where they're trying to tap into the millions of users they got on Xbox to just install MSFS for the $1 their subscription for Xbox Live, and then just purchase some sort of a cheap and cheerful package of like the Red Bull thing, and just fly around for 5 minutes, find their house, and then just close it off. But still, Microsoft will have made their cut. I think that's their market their marketing target. I'm not sure they really care about the hardcore sim market. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, so I don't want to be. That's just sort of my personal conspiracy theory. And if it doesn't pan out for them, you can be sure that they're going to put the brakes on real fast.
That's sad, man. I you talking and really kind of going through that, I've definitely seen evidence of that. I think you're spot on for sure. We talked about this last week on our show, that very same topic, where they gave out all these copies to folks that could care less about flight sim. They just have a couple 100,000 followers or subscribers on whatever channel or whatever outlet that they typically showcase themselves on. They got a copy, flew around, went and found their house and turned it off, and you never saw them stream it or showcase it again. And
and not just a copy. I mean, a copy doesn't cost Microsoft anything, but they'll send out a new PC, they'll send out flight controls, and I'm just looking at this guy who never flies anything flight sim. They might do camera reviews or that kind of stuff, and I'm looking at the kit that they send and I'm counting up, and that's like $5,000 worth of hardware right there for
Alone.
this one
Wow.
guy, and there's dozens of them. So you
Yep.
know that there was a big marketing push and big money poured into getting the thing out
Mhm.
to casuals, so to
Yeah.
speak.
I remember
It's,
two YouTubers who got there was Dr. Disrespect, biggest Twitch streamer in the world. I mean, he's
Yeah.
on YouTube now.
Right.
He got it. He's not cheap if you're gonna ask him to promote
Oh,
his stuff.
sure. No.
Jay's 2 cents. He also got a whole
Mhm.
computer system
Mhm.
dedicated to Microsoft Flight Sim, and people telling me, "Oh, look, even Jay's 2 cents is flying." And the doctor, I said, "Do you think Microsoft, like, do you think they actually went out and bought these computers and decided to fly Microsoft Flight Sim just
Yeah.
because they like it?
Don't you
Microsoft
think
got
they
the
might have?
checkbook out.
Yeah, don't you think they might have greased those wheels a little bit? You know, just
Just
to
a
make it go down a
little.
little bit smoother.
Like, come on, it's promotion, it's advertising. Like I heard, I'm like, this is pure, like what I've heard from other big streamers is that I think Dr. Disrespect charges $50,000 per video to promote your product.
Wow.
Now, if that's true, yeah, I mean, Microsoft can afford it, and of course they're
They
going to
can afford
spend
it.
money on their investment to try and make their money back.
Yep.
I mean, he's got millions of viewers and however many subscribers, but yeah, they're not just going to go out and buy this stuff and say, yeah, look, I'm flying Microsoft Flight Sim. He flew it twice, I think, and that was it.
That was
Yeah.
it.
Most folks 2, 3, 4 times, and that was it. And
Yeah.
you've got dedicated hardcore simmers and aviation enthusiasts that couldn't even get it until the first day, which was kind of sad. But
Yeah.
I think
I do
Small
like that
audience.
it's out. I do like that Microsoft Flight Sim did come out because it introduced flight sim into a whole new group of people.
absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely.
And I've seen people see X-Plane and think, oh, what's X-Plane? So, and then they have X-Plane and Microsoft
Exactly.
Flight Simulator. So
Right.
it's not. It's good that it came out for some competition. It's good that it came out for people to see what's going on because
What's
they're
out there.
advertising it on the teenager generation.
Yep.
Fortnite streamers sort of thing. Dr. Disrespect, for example.
Yeah.
So in that way, it's good for the exposure. But as far as a business plan, they need to recoup a lot of money.
For sure.
We'll see what happens.
For sure, absolutely, and I've always, I've said that as well. It's one of those things. It's great because like my son, he's 11. He's starting to be exposed. Because hey, son Game Pass. He downloaded and they start flying it. Hey, what else is out there? Start searching things up, find X-Plane, and there you go. So exactly, Gordon. It's good in that perspective, but from a business perspective, it's like I don't know.
They're taking a very, very big risk.
Big risk, for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
We got another Challenger specific question. Is there a way we can make the big screen in the cabin more interactive? So from Captain Geo, he's also been flying that thing almost every day.
Every
on
day.
stream. But yeah, more interaction. I love that screen, by the way. I'll sit. in the
Oh, my
back and
Lord.
just- I'll miss top of the set, just sitting back there looking at that
Missing
thing.
my top of the set.
Yeah, and if you
That's
think
awesome.
about it, that thing took only about a day and a half to code.
No way.
Yeah,
Yeah. for
well,
you- for
I
you.
suppose there's more stuff obviously planned for. I'm not sure if we're gonna, immediately commit to putting more stuff onto the cabin infotainment system, but eventually, I can say that I've been looking into integrating libVLC in there. So we'll see what happens from that. But I'm not sure. I'm not going to commit to making that happen. But yes, it did pass. It did cross my mind and a lot of people's mind. Like, what if we could just sit in the seat back there and watch Netflix on the thing or something like that? I was like, sure, we could theoretically, but I'm not going to make it for release. So, don't look to having it available on January 7th.
Netflix API, right? That thing is
Netflix.
so interactive, man. It's like
Unbelievable.
I showed my wife, who could care less about flight sim, and she was just like, I could literally sit back there and see where you are, where you're headed, how long it's going to take you to get there, what time we're going to land. And by the way, what time we're going to land in the time. Like, I love that it tracks the time zone differences as well. It's just like the real thing on the aircrafts out there.
Yeah, getting that time zone stuff down was not easy because, boy, time zones are complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And I think it's also cool too, because yesterday I think I set the sim time back for whatever reason. I think I just wanted to fly a little bit more in daylight, and it still kept the time zone intact, right? Didn't mess with it at all. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. It's just the little things for me. I've been looking for something like that
Absolutely.
for a while. Like, let's still keep the local time zone of when we're supposed to land, even though I'm setting the time back or forward in the sim. I think that gets overlooked a lot, but it's there. It's there in the Challenger, so that's pretty cool. Have you seen customers do something with the CL650 that surprised you since it's been released?
Yes.
Like,
I'm gonna mention this one now. And even Sasa didn't know about this one. I brought it up I think yesterday in a small meeting we had with one of our pilots. It's amazing what people will find, what they will go through and try to find. The fire extinguisher in the cockpit, I deliberately put the indicator on empty. And I said to myself, let's see how long it takes for someone to notice this. See if they really go down into the detail to see if this thing is empty.
Wow.
And yeah, less than a week later, they came back. They said, I think there's a bug in the fire extinguisher. It's showing empty. I'm like, oh, so how do you go down there? What are you looking for down there? Like, why? You just want to see the fire extinguisher? You want to see, like, wow. These guys, there's still one more Easter egg I've put in there. They haven't found it yet.
We're gonna be
I don't
looking
even
now.
think the fire extinguisher is in the pre-flight check. I mean, it's in our GA pre-flight check.
Yeah, but you go check that as well. When you do your cockpit preparation checks.
Got it.
In this meeting I had with Sasa, he said that he did see it when we were still developing it, and he was going to bring it up, but I just thought he was too busy. He couldn't. He didn't have time to bring it up. But if he did bring it up, I was going to tell him. I was like, yeah, that's deliberate. I wanted to see who would see it.
We were so pressed for time for the initial release that I was like tossing stuff away from our plate that we wanted to do, and it's just like, this ain't gonna make release. This ain't gonna make release. This fire extinguisher's got the wrong indicator on the wrong thing. Who cares? Ain't nobody gonna notice it. After a week, we'll finish it. We'll fix it. That kind of stuff.
That's hilarious. They sure did.
3 years development, we'd have time to do things properly at the end, but no, it was a mad rush. It was crazy.
Oh, for sure.
Listen, man, for something that you guys claim was a mad rush at the end, I've had no issues with it.
No issues. It's been no game breaking issues at all.
No. Well, what's the best way to land this plane, as it doesn't like any of the tips? She does land a little flat, but I'm sure that's just a characteristic.
That's very CRJ-ish.
Yeah.
So actually, we do need a little bit more ground effect in there, so it'll land even flatter.
Wow.
The typical nose attitude on a landing would be about 3 to 4 degrees nose high, and it is pretty typical. So the Challenger doesn't have leading edge slats, right? So it compensates for that with some ginormous flaps on the back end, and as a result, you come in relatively fast. Typical approach speed would be 135 knots, 737 speeds, and the thing will still be nose down. There's actually I've seen this. It was shown to me by one of our consultant pilots who flies the Challenger. He brought up a document from Bombardier for Challenger conversion training from the Challenger onto the Bombardier Global. The Global does have leading edge slats, and it is commonly nose high on approach, 2 or 3 degrees nose high, whereas the Challenger is nose low. Right. And so they've had incidents where Challenger pilots that have just converted over to the Global, they're coming in very, very sort of cabin or cockpit viewpoint low on the Global, not realizing they're dragging a giant airplane that's like 30 feet lower with the main landing gear behind them, and they're almost hitting the threshold point and threshold lights on the runway with their main landing gear, because they were still thinking Challenger, so I gotta be low on approach because the rest of the airplane is above me. On a Global, it's the other way around. So it gets a little bit hard to get the landing attitude down right, but I think eventually it'll click for people. One other thing that sort of tends to people to catch out a lot of people that are used to like flying 737s and A320s in the sim is, especially on a 737, you got what they call a normal pitch power coupler, right? So you retard throttles and the nose comes down.
Right.
You put in power, nose comes up. On a Challenger, it's the exact way opposite around, right? So you put power in, that the thing dips down. You take power out, you come into a flare. You almost don't have to like actively flare. Come into a flare.
Yeah.
Hold the power at 50 feet, and the nose automatically starts coming up on you.
Right.
So
I've seen that.
people then tend to overflare. They'll try and go for a greaser, and they'll just barely touch, instinctively pull back a little bit more on the yoke, and the thing goes flying again.
Yep. I've been floating the hell out of that thing because of that very same reason. I'm trying to flare it, and I'm just like, she's like, no, I don't need any more flare. I'm done.
Yeah,
She's like,
don't try and flare
"Eh."
like an A320. You're gonna be floating
Yeah.
to the end of the runway.
I learned that the hard way.
Guilty. Oh my goodness.
Gotta love the CL650. She's built like a steakhouse, but handles like a bistro, right?
I appreciate a good future number reference.
Oh my goodness.
These are awesome. Guys, get your questions in. We're here with Sasso and Goran, just talking about hot starts and mainly focused on the Challenger 650 that was just released last week. If you haven't picked this thing up again yet, you guys don't know what you're missing, man.
Missing
Definitely
out. Oh my
head
goodness.
over to X-Aviation and pick yourself up a copy of this aircraft. High fidelity aircraft. I think I can't think of another aircraft across the flight sim platform in any genre that has been developed to this degree. So you won't regret it. There was another question in here. Here we go. Any hints to what's the next aircraft for you guys?
Something
Well,
Proline 21.
Something
yeah,
what?
yeah, we're not super. One of the reasons why we picked the Challenger as well was we were looking at the avionics suite that are prevalent in the industry, and one of the two big, I would say, are Honeywell and Collins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so we were deciding what to do, also for the fact that if we do it and we do it right, we want to be able to reuse a lot of the avionics for any future projects. And so that's why the sort of the choice ultimately fell down with the Challenger, because it's Proline 21, and the 21 and its derivatives, there's also other stuff, obviously, is in a lot of aircraft. Even an avionics developer, a big company like Collins, they ain't going to redevelop everything just for a new aircraft type, right?
Right.
So even if you look at something like a Global or a C series, the A220, they're still Collins Proline. They just call them, Proline Fusion. But if you sort of scratch under the surface and you peel back a little bit, you'll see it's still Proline 21 essentially. The the FMS internally has the same guidance code. It has a lot of the same navigational code in it. So being able to reuse all of that was sort of our goal. Now we don't have a specific aircraft selected yet, because it largely again depends on us being happy with where the Challenger is as a product, so we can basically take our eyes off of it. And we still got a lot of things that we want to do in the Challenger. I've promised a lot of things that I wanted to make for initial release that had to be postponed, but there's still things that we still want to do on the Challenger, and that's going to keep us busy for a few more months. So we want to do the Rega interior, we want to do a medevac version, and we also want to do we wanted to do share flight integration, because what is the point of having a training level simulation?
Right, you can't fly with
another
someone.
person.
Yeah, man.
My goodness.
I'm waiting for that one. That's awesome.
So the entire automatic first officer that we got in the airplane right now is actually kind of a crutch. It was put in later after it had been clear that, okay, we're not going to be able to do share flight for initial release. It would just take another 2 months to like get that in. So what sort of quick stopgap measure can we put into a jet that is fairly workload heavy if you just try and do it all solo? Because, for example, the go-around on a Challenger is all manual thrust, manual, no autopilot. So how do we get that in for a single pilot experience? And so the idea was we can automate a lot of the flows for you for the normal case, for the non-emergency case. If you just want to run through it, you can. And that was put in after it was clear that share flight ain't going to be making the initial release.
Gotcha.
But if you want to do everything, all the non-normals, if you want to do variants of the checklist, if you want to depart packs off, if you want to fly in with something broken, an MEL'd item or deferred item, then you got to have an actual other person there with you to run the whole thing, run the whole show, so to speak. And that is why share flight is going to be coming.
Awesome. Look, I couldn't fly that thing without that FO, by the way.
My goodness.
I'd be in for a world of hurt. So I'm glad you guys put that in. There was a question here. The FBO walking around is my favorite. I never like just instantly spawning a cockpit. That is so like incredible. That's my favorite thing in the entire add-on, to be honest. Just being able to pop in the FBO,
Absolutely.
and it's not just being in the FBO, right? It's being able to interact, with Jenny. And,
That's the thing is, when we were
Good old Jenny.
the whole FBO concept and mission concept was actually this. Well, I had envisioned it years ago, so probably 2 years ago or so.
Uh-huh.
One thing that I was chatting about this with one of our testers, Graham. He's an A320 captain, and one of the things we both kind of despise with a burning passion of 1,000 suns is people just keep putting in these stupid EFBs in aircraft add-ons where you like have like click spots to place every passenger on a seat, or where you like ordering fuel,
Yeah.
or where you like setting up aircraft configurations. None of that
Yeah.
happens in an EFB. You don't do that from a cockpit. When you're setting up a flight, you do it in a planning room, or you do it at home in front of a computer before you ever get to the aircraft.
Yeah.
When you, for an airline captain, they don't care who sits where. They just get a
Right.
load sheet. They're going to get told, today we have 85 people on board. The airplane's been put in trim by the loadmaster,
Right.
and there you go. You just fly the thing.
Yep.
They order the fuel ahead of time at their mission planning office, and that's it. That's all they do. The FBO is, I'm sorry, the EFB is for charts. That's all there's in there. Maybe performance calculator. That's about it. And fuel, if you want to order fuel, or if you want to, specify to the fueler how much fuel you want, just go talk to the guy.
Yep.
If you need de-icing, you talk to them on radio, and that kind of stuff. We just wanted to get away from that really overused EFB trope, where everybody keeps putting stuff in the EFB that absolutely should not be there. That is why our EFB is Avatab for charts and documents, and that's it.
Part of that to me too. Yeah, go ahead. I'll leave.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just everything else having to do with your mission, you just go talk to people. You fill out some paperwork. You go to places and order the thing really the way it's done in real life.
Yep. Part of that too goes back to what I was saying earlier, just about having some of the things that we're used to in like P3D, like your GSX. We don't really have that in X-Plane. So I feel like part of the reason why that's getting all buried in there is because we're lacking utility add-ons like a GSX, where you'd be able to call someone up for fuel, de-icing, boarding, deboarding, all that good stuff. But clearly you guys have demonstrated that it can be done in X-Plane, and we should
absolutely. One of Graham's, being an airline pilot's pet peeves is he hates opening and arming doors through an EFB. He's like, as a captain, I don't care what happens in the cabin. The purser takes care of that.
Exactly.
When departure time comes, I know the doors are going to be closed. The doors are going to be armed, and I just get a call from Jenny in the back, so to speak, to say, "Hey, everybody's seated. We're ready to go. Whatever." And when you arrive at the gate, you shut down the engines, and they automatically take care of getting the jetway on the aircraft. They get the doors open. Everything everything happens, so to speak, automatically from a pilot's point of view. Now, for a corporate pilot's a little bit more manual because you don't have as much ground support, but it's still fairly automated. The thing is, you just don't. There are other things as a corporate captain that enter your mind. Like, for instance, you're the one responsible for ordering a ride for the passengers when you arrive. So literally, if you want to get the FBO to get a rental car out to the aircraft for your passengers, you pick up the phone and you call them. We're gonna be there in 30 minutes. Please have a rental. And they said they want an SUV, or they said they want a 2-seater sports car. That kind of stuff. And that's the way it works. So we just wanted to get away from that trope of having like menus inside of an EFB for stuff that is absolutely not in an AFB.
Yep. That's awesome. Question for Pilot Man: Will we see some kind of management system like flight logs and MEL deferrals? Oh yeah, that is one of the things we were thinking about. Some people have been hoping to get the same kind of fault or maintenance simulation than the Challenger that we had in TBM. We did think about it
the problem is, first of all, Challenger is about 10 times more complicated than TBM, just from the system's perspective. If you knew how many avionics computers there are in that thing, and how many things can fail on them, you'd be doing nothing but maintenance in the sim all day, every day. So second of all, it isn't even realistic. For TBM, you are the owner operator, right? Most of the time, you are the person with whom the buck stops. But for a Challenger, what we wanted to simulate was the pilot experience. And a pilot generally does not do any of that stuff. There's going to be a holding company or some sort of a maintenance department that are going to take care of making sure that the aircraft is either certified for airworthy. And second of all, the thing that the pilot will, though, deal with is MEL items and deferrals, like your viewer here noted. And that is something that we do want to do. So yes, we do want some sort of a model there which you can opt into, where you come up to the jet and something's broken on the thing, and then you're going to have to fill out my favorite, more paperwork to get the thing properly logged, and you'll be able to dispatch with the broken item on there. And then we track, obviously, what you've done, what work you've done, and what sort of stuff, essentially the history of the aircraft over time.
FAR 91-215. Although
you seem that sounds like there are some scars right there.
Yeah, that's burned into my mind for sure. Although that might be operated under a different part for charter. You would know, Johnny, right?
For charter,
MELs and
when we want to be 135.
How you deal with inop? Yeah, there you go. Inop equipments. Let's see. So that answers Gio's question about if you had an APU malfunction, would you get like a maintenance manager to handle that?
Yeah, we do want to simulate that kind of stuff where you'd, as a pilot, walk up to it and then go through the whole deferral process, get the whole thing sort of. We do also. I haven't told Goran this, but we're gonna have to have. we're gonna have to have taggable breakers. Since we've simulated all 300 or 400 breakers or however many there are in the aircraft, we want to have collar tags for all breakers. So we're gonna get on that.
Yep.
Jesus.
So you can tie them off, man.
Oh, you thought you were done with
those breakers again? Huh?
You thought we were done with the airplane, but no. Yeah, there's a lot more that we're going to be doing there.
To go.
No, it's when I start hearing the word hundreds, it scares me.
Oh man!
Wow. Okay.
Sweet baby Jesus, says Gio. That's incredible, man.
Maybe set aside a couple months.
Yeah, we're probably going to have in-op stickers that you can apply on the cockpit and that kind of stuff. The hanging tags and that kind of stuff. So
exactly.
You've got a non-functional thrust reverser, so you're going to have to red tag the little switch for it and red tag and color tag the breaker. Of course, all under guidance from your A&P.
Oh man, that's funny.
Wow.
Too cool.
I'm gonna have an anxiety attack right now.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and it's the little things, right? What we've been, what we've mentioned earlier that really sets this thing apart, and even going back to the TBM, every experience is unique. Every flight, in my opinion, is different. I mean, I've been on stream and just, engine, it's my fault, of course, engine catches on fire and, we got to pitch for best glide and do what we got to do. But, it's just, the little things that, to me, I think are just mind blowing with this thing. And then hear that you guys aren't done. Oh my goodness. So yeah. I mean, again, we're really excited to see. Is that a question there, Mike? You see?
Yeah. First of all, hello, Evan. Welcome, man. Good to see you. We've had Evan on the show before, from Flight Sim Association. He's got a question about the temperature compensation feature. So Evan says, I just jumped on. So Evan's been asked his reported altitude issue with the VATSIM unknown bug. Is there a setting? There is a setting for it, but it doesn't seem to be working, he says.
Yeah, so See, Goran, even on a podcast, we can't get away from support. It'll haunt us to our graves. So, yeah, Evan. So this is actually, well, sort of a known issue. So the setting in the Challenger does actually work. The problem is more on the reporting side, where since essentially none of the systems in the Challenger interact with the core sim, the fact that you have set standard baro is not reflected in the stock simulator state. So it doesn't think that you've got standard baro set. And apparently some online networks, what they do is they read, stock, like the stock altimeter readout that you've got on the instrument. And we're not feeding that back into the sim, what you've got set on your avionics. So that might be a bit of an issue. We do have a temporary workaround, and we have a permanent fix in update 1 coming in a few days. The temporary workaround is essentially that you can bind a key to set standard baro in the core sim itself. It doesn't affect the Challenger, because the Challenger is basically living in its own merry little world. Right. But it will make it'll solve the issue with interop with with the online networks. And it really stems from the fact that we did test the Challenger on online flying, but since most of us don't fly anything else, we never ever change that default setting in XPlane out of its default state, which is 2992. So we never noticed that. Kind of a blind spot, I guess. But yeah,
gotcha.
That's how it happened.
Okay, I didn't notice. I've heard like rumblings that was happening, but I've flown a bunch of flights on VATSIM with some control. I think controllers are just understanding, when they see the flight tag on the equipment you're flying, they just know. I've had controllers ask me, "Hey, how is it, man? I'm going to pick it up myself." So I think they just know. I don't think it's drastically off. So unless you're flying like a VISI, VATSIM FNO or some sort of VATSIM event where they're trying to sequence traffic and all that stuff, maybe that's when it becomes problematic.
It'll only be an issue if you've flown a previous flight on another aircraft that was using stock airplane barometric settings, and you set it out of 2992 and forgot it there, or didn't change it back, and so XPlane just reloads that state back in for itself.
Got it. Cool. Awesome.
Anyway, for us, the workaround is pretty straightforward. We always, when you load a Challenger in, we load in standard baro and just live with it, I guess.
Live with it.
Right. That makes sense. Southpaw, how you doing? Welcome. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Sasso.
No, it's just like that was wholly apart from the whole temperature effect simulation, which you can turn off because I anticipated that might be an issue for online flying. If you're off by 2,000 feet from everybody else, that might ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, I like it though. It's awesome. Again, that's like going back to what Goran said. Things that you think of that most folks aren't even dreaming of, that apply in the real world, but you don't even think about simulating that in a desktop flight sim. So that's pretty cool. And
it was sort of just before the Challenger got released. This was actually XPlane 12 is going to incorporate this as a core feature, and MSFS apparently added it in one of its updates for this kind of temperature effect simulation. Now, in MSFS's case, I think they actually kind of broke it. The implementation is bad, and in XPlane 12, I didn't know whether the implementation is any good or not. But yeah, when XPlane announced it for XPlane 12, I was like, "Damn it, that was my jam." I was gonna bring that to everybody's attention, that's a thing that pilots do need to look out for.
For sure.
It was like a week or two before release as well.
Oh man, I haven't been in FS 2020 in a while. So
yeah, in a while, especially since it got released. Yeah.
Geo in this 650 ER. Geo, if you want to fly longer, you got to fly another equipment, man. What do you need the ER for? Where are you going? Evan says, "Yeah, I understand that Ross VATSIM is working on a fix for that temperature-related altimetry in FS." Okay, I guess XPlane 12 might have the same thing, so there may be some adjusting from the network too. Yeah, that's actually a good call out. Yeah.
And the reason why I even implemented it in the first place was because the Challenger has temperature compensation built into the FMS, so it can actually do it for you. You don't have to run around with a corrections table as you would do on an A320 or a 737.
Right.
But because it has the capability in the FMS, well, naturally I want to simulate what happens if you don't use it.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Wow.
Guys, we are, gosh, an hour and 34 minutes
Yeah.
in here. Time freaking flies, man. And I know it's pretty late over there on your side in Europe. Goron's in the future there,
Yeah,
Sunday afternoon there, but
lunchtime soon.
lunchtime. There you go. But I definitely, appreciate you guys, coming on and spending some time with us and spending some time with the viewers and asking a couple of questions there. It's good to bring that feature into the sim, like it's 100% something positive to think of. Yep, makes a big difference on
Absolutely.
cold days.
Huge difference on cold days.
Yeah.
High to low. Look out below. Whoops.
Johnny's got
Who
some
put that
scars,
mountain
too.
there?
Oh my
Cool.
goodness. Yeah, again, guys, I just want to thank y'all for, releasing these products that, really gets the gears turning, for us average simmers. I mean, we've, Mike said it as well. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of products out there where you can actually learn something, and, take time and study and really, appreciate like, wow, I've flown probably the closest approximation to a TBM or the closest approximation to a Challenger there is, and some little sense of gratification that comes with that. So, again, guys, Sasso, Gordon, thank you. We've just been really,
Absolutely.
the community, is, I know myself, we're just extremely grateful to, to have a team who's so passionate about their work, and just not in it for for a dollar. So
Yeah,
And we can't wait to keep on pushing.
as long as people enjoy it, what we're making, then we're happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. Sasso, Goron, any parting words for our viewers here?
Hope you're gonna have fun with the airplane and enjoy fly the doors off the thing.
I will.
I was gonna say, you don't gotta tell a couple people that's in this chat and Johnny not twice, man. I'm telling you, like, it's been burning holes in the VATSIM and all the other network skies. So it's been great. I'm enjoying it. Everyone else here is enjoying it as well. So appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So it's great. Thanks so much, Rock City. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Well, guys, that's going to do it here for this episode of the Close Traffic Podcast. Those that tuned in live, appreciate it. Those that will be listening to this recording via our podcast outlets a little later, appreciate that as well.
Absolutely. Apple, Spotify, especially Apple, if you can rate us 4 stars, whatever it is up there, it'd be great. Really helps with our algorithm. So I'm sorry, there we go. Continue.
All right, you all take care. We're gonna count down this thing and stay safe and have a good one.